Class 2, Crash Course Class 2, Sphere and Time Blocking. Welcome to the class, guys. I hope you had a good afternoon. I really want to know, by a show of hands, I know, okay, I'm done with the webinar jokes, but just humor me for one time. By a show of hands, how many of you actually honored your time blocking last night? If it was 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, oh good, I see a couple of you did. Oh, Julie, I'm sorry you didn't. Now I'm done. No more webinar back and forth jokes. Well, good. As you're going to find out, sometimes it's easy to time block if you have nothing going on, and sometimes it's a little bit of a challenge. The goal isn't that every night at 7 o'clock you focus in on just doing that one thing for your time blocking. The goal is that you begin to look at your week critically and say, when am I going to get all my work done? When will I actually be able to focus in and get my time blocking in? It's going to be a practice. We're going to get better and better as we go along. The ultimate goal is to be excellent at your time blocking so that you can do with the rest of your day and time whatever you want. But today's class, we're really going to go back into Sphere and just kind of focus a little bit more on the time blocking. But before we do, I got to introduce you to some of my all-time favorites. I'm not going to call them role models because they're young whippersnappers, but I think these guys are pretty awesome. How many of you know who Dude Perfect is? Dude Perfect is a group of guys. They started off, they all went to college together, Texas A&M, and they just started to post these goofy videos to YouTube. They're in a backyard of a house they rented, and it's them in a basketball hoop, and they're just trying these impossible, amazing trick shots. I think they uploaded it just for their own friends and family to see. They did not know that they went on to become a cultural phenomenon. You see, these guys went on to become pretty much YouTube celebrities. Just to give you some perspective, this group of guys, this group of 5 guys, have more followers to their YouTube channel than the NBA, MLB, NHL, all the major sports teams combined have less followers on their YouTube channel than these guys do. They have over 17 million subscribers. They're corporate sponsored. I actually went on their website. You can go to their website. It's like dudeperfect.com just to see what their booking fees were. They are charging $250,000 to show up to some corporate events. And these are a bunch of goofy guys who just do amazing trick shots. We're going to watch one of their videos in a second. But what I want you to pay attention to is, yeah, the trick shots are cool, but I want you to see how they rally around behind one another and celebrate like mad whenever they make their shot. Let's watch the video.
Dude Perfect.
What's up, guys? We're Dude Perfect. Today's a huge day because we're unveiling our brand new office, DPHQ2. Let's do it! This is the bounce pass. Here we go, boys. This is the pole bending gong ringer.
Let's take a tour.
Got our DP decor up on the wall.
They say rustic's really in these days.
Oh, there's Coach doing some Snapchat filters.
Hey, nice shot.
Because now we got a place to take showers and keep our clothes. Oh, Panda! Oh my, hey, sorry, bud. Didn't know you were in there. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah! That's it, baby! Yeah! 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 New office, no lookers. Let's take a quick peek at each of the guys' offices. These 2 top shelves are for my future battle trophies. Just reliving my glory days. That video, this trophy. Oh, Tony Noobs!
Chad, why are you in my office?
It's Texas State.
Nobody swag, baby! Nobody swag! Hey, what are you about to do?
Hit him with the mobile swisher.
Do it, son.
Oh, it's done. It's got a train. This is the Swinging Corey Cornhole. This is the mobile football laser shot. Yeah! Got it!
Oh.
Signing off for now. Pound it. Noggin. See ya!
Super goofy, guys. I love it. It's actually some inspiring stuff. This is the crazy part. They started doing these impossible trick shots, and before you knew it, they got bigger and bigger and bigger. But if you think about how many takes, sometimes they do 85, 100 takes before they made a shot. Well, just not think about the guy who's chucking the football or kicking the soccer ball or throwing the basketball. Think about the other group of guys that are standing on there. How many times their community had to shag the balls, get it back up to them to the top of the stadium bleachers, or just do all the legwork to go into it and be ready so that when that one shot does go in, they all celebrate like mad instantly. That's why I love these guys. It's because they do the same thing over and over and over and over and over again until they get that one amazing result, and then they celebrate like mad. That's why we actually have bells up now in our office. Whenever we get we do a good script, or we set a buyer's consult, or we close a deal, we gotta celebrate like mad, because this game is a game of numbers. Metrics is the language of real estate. It's all about your conversion ratios. How many hundreds of people do you have to speak to close one piece of business? If we can implement just a little bit of Dude Perfect in our teams and in our Mosaic community, we're gonna sell a lot of real estate. You should watch a couple more of their videos, they're pretty awesome, but let's move on. What we're gonna talk about today, the 80-20 principle. Have you ever heard of this before or familiar with it? Vilfredo Pareto, some Italian guy who I think his parents were pretty jacked up for naming him that, came up with this principle. You see, he was a mathematician, and he was gardening one day, and he came across the fact, or he noticed the fact, that 80% of the peas in his garden were the bounty or the fruitfulness of only about 20% of the pods. The converse was true. He saw that only 20% of the actual peas that he got were the result of the other 80% of all the pods in the garden. So he went on to study this principle, not just in the natural sciences, but in behavioral sciences. And it stands to reason. Do you know that part of the Pareto principle is that you only wear 20% of the clothes in your wardrobe 80% of the time? You have your go-to shoes, your go-to jeans. You wear those 80% of the time. If you look at the American economics, do you know that 80% of the land and wealth in America is owned by 20% of the people? In fact, the 1% rule, like where 1% of the global wealth is, they own 99% of all the wealth. It's a variation of the Pareto principle. It's not that these are always 80-20 specific, but what they get down to, and the root of what we're going to talk about, is Gary Keller in his book, The One Thing. He talks about 80% of the results that fund your life are directly correlated to only 20% of activities. It's true. So just think about what currently funds your life, or just think about the real estate business that we're going to be getting you into. You're going to find that 80% of the stuff you do is just filler. It's just busyness. It's just random superfluous fluff. 20% of what you do is going to produce the overwhelming, bountiful results. If you think about it, that's why we actually budget 2 hours a day, 4 days a week for lead gen. It's because we expect that 20% is going to bear the fruit for everything else. And so what is it that you currently are 80-20 on? Think about it. Is there anything in your life? Is it, that 45 minutes that you spend at the gym each day, that 20% that you spend working out, does that fund or fuel the 80% of the health that you feel in your life? Does currently playing with your kid when you get home from work for that 1 hour, you get 1 hour with the kid, is that what spurs you on and motivates you for the rest of the day and the week? The 80-20 principle is very real. So how do we begin to apply that to our own self? Well, the first slide I want to show you is the raving fan slide. This is awesome. And for most of us, we're in Seahawks County, and so we're going straight with the creating raving fans. Who are the raving fans in your life? Well, I'm going to tell you that 80% of the business from your sphere is going to come from 20% of the people that you know. So I want to help you get really good at identifying who your raving fans are. These are the people who are huge advocates for you. I can think of some of even before I was in real estate, I could think of the people who are just raving fans of mine. I had a school teacher, didn't think, she left an indelible impact. She was always my favorite teacher, but I didn't know she was a raving fan of mine until I started to sell real estate. And then she was someone who was always wishing me well, posting things on Facebook, sending me links and articles about what realtors should know. She was a raving fan of mine. Now right now you're like, well, my mom's a raving fan, I don't know anyone else. You're going to begin to see who your raving fans are. I have one client, and I did not know how much they were going to help support my personal life and my professional life. So I sold them a house, and they were incredibly a sweet couple to work with. And so I just stayed in really good contact with them. Not because I was trying to create a raving fan. I didn't know this concept at the time, but I just really enjoyed them. I didn't even know why I really enjoyed them. And so I dropped stuff off at their house. Well, they went on to refer me 4 other pieces of business that very year. They turned out to be epic raving fans. And then I came across this concept, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's who they are. They're raving fans in my life. I want to dote on them. Who are the people that are going to refer you the majority of your business? And so you see you have a worksheet there. I want you to begin to fill out who your raving fans are. If you can't come up with the full complement to fill out who all your raving fans are, you need to get them. So what do we do about it? How do we support our raving fans? Well, the quickest way to take a raving fan from a raving fan until a not raving fan is to take advantage of them. You see, they're your advocates for a reason. They think there's something special about you, so we need to reciprocate that. And so we're going to begin, part of all of what we're going to learn actually in tomorrow's class is how to be visible and valuable. The last thing we want to do with our raving fans, right now I just want you to identify them. I don't want you to call them up and say, oh yeah, you're the one. You know who a great example of a raving fan is? You have a friend who's always posting about the restaurants they go to. They're the ones that are always saying, you got to go see this movie. They're the ones who's had a horrible experience with a car mechanic and everyone knows about it. They're the same friend who had a great experience with a car mechanic and they say, oh my gosh, you got to go to Artworks Volvo or whoever it is. It was a great experience. Those are raving fan type of people. Right now we want to identify them so that they can become your raving fans. We'll talk about how to network with them tomorrow. With that, the second component is, I want you to know who your wealth builders are. Do you even know what that means? So, who are the wealth builders in your life? Who are the people that you allow to speak to you, to influence you for building wealth, building a financial future? You know, there's a lot of great quotes out there. One of them I like is Jim Rohn. He talks about, you show me the 5 people you spend the most time with, and I will show you your financial future. He sums it up a different way. He says, you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. It's absolutely true. Think about the different phases of your life that you're in. Think about your younger years or your developing years, or think about even in your past professional career. Who are the 5 people you spent the most time with? I'm not saying who are your 5 best friends. You know, some of my best friends I spend the least amount of time with because their lives are so busy. But who are the 5 people that you spend the most time with? And how does your economic, financial literacy compare with theirs? And I bet they're all pretty similar, pretty parallel. So some of my wealth builders aren't people who I've ever even met in person, but they're people who I allow to speak into my life through podcasts, through their books. They're kind of the people who I've just kind of committed to. I'm going to listen to what they say. Now, you can't say you're going to take it piecemeal, you're going to take a little bit from this guy and a little bit from that guy, and you're going to kind of come up with your own little doctrine of economic wealth building. I'd say that's not what you want to be focused on right now. Who are the 5 people that you're just going to be dumb enough to do what they say and smart enough to keep doing it? You see, the moment you begin to take, oh, I like what this guy says piecemeal, but Rich Dad Poor Dad said this, but this didn't really apply here. No, you're sitting in this class because you don't currently have the financial future you want. So pick some wealth builders and stick with them. These are my wealth builders. One of them is Ben Kinney. He actually owns the market center I work with. He's also someone who I respect entirely. When I was first starting out, when I first started growing the team, he had a bigger team than I did, and I wanted to be just like him in the business world. So I began to be dumb enough to do what he told me and smart enough to keep doing it. He would give me some encouragement or some words of advice or some wisdom on how I should handle a certain hire, and I didn't think, oh, but he doesn't really know. Well, that's maybe what he would do. I was just, no, I'm going to let this guy be a wealth builder in my life, and he still is. I don't see him very often. I used to see him a lot more before he got so busy, but he's someone who I allow to speak financial literacy. I like the way he invests. I just think this is someone who I want to emulate. The next one is Zig Ziglar. I didn't find out who Zig Ziglar was until long after he passed. And if you need someone to put on your wealth builder list, put down Zig Ziglar. There's a great podcast. It's called, well, I'll have to email it to you. Actually, it's going to show up right now on a blank screen. This is the Zig Ziglar podcast. This is someone who always comes with phenomenal wisdom. He was someone who was into his late 40s and he was broken down to his last couple of nickels as a salesman until he just discovered an incredible wealth and bounty. He's full of one-liners and he's someone who always encourages and inspires me. Inspiring Your True Performance. That's the name of the podcast. If you want to download it, yeah, I highly encourage it. I listen to every episode. It's just so captivating. I've allowed Zig Ziglar to be someone who I'm going to say is going to help me build financial wealth. And then my two road dogs on here, Jesse Roberts and Nolan Robinson. They're actually people who you know. They're in our organization. Nolan's a young whippersnapper who wears bow ties. I can't stand the bow ties. And then Jesse's someone who always wears vests. Again, I'm never going to wear a vest. But they are two people who I allow to dictate and help build my financial future. There's someone who we network with, we talk about investing, we talk about how we're investing, talk about multifamily, you name it, we begin to discuss these things. These are who I'm allowing to help me determine what my wealth is. And then lastly is Gary Keller. I didn't pick Ben Katie and Gary Keller because they're both in KW. I picked them because they both have a lot of literature out there, they're easily accessible, and they're people who I want to emulate. So yes, Gary Keller is someone who I quote frequently and often. I've never met the man, I've never even been within 100 yards of meeting the man, but he's someone who I've allowed to become an absolute wealth determiner in my life. If you don't have 5 wealth determiners, you must. So far you've been in class for 2 complete days and we haven't even begun to talk about how to sell real estate. In fact, you've got that one friend who actually is willing to be crazy enough to let you sell him a house, and right now you're like, Andy, we're not even talking about the practical aspects of real estate. I need to know how to negotiate multiple offers. We're gonna get there. But let me just tell you, the only thing that you need to know one step ahead of what your prospective client knows, and we'll take care of the rest. If you happen to meet someone who right now you're going to go show homes tonight, listen, we have some extra instructional videos to get you. Your team captain might even go show with you. We're going to get you taken care of. You're going to see that we're all going to blossom at different phases. Some are going to create business right away. Some are going to have to work a little bit harder to do it. Either way, we're going to help you where you're at. This is the important part. And this is actually a script you're going to learn when you do the buyer's consultation, but it really applies to where you're at now. You just need to know one step more than the client does. So here it is. Here's the home buying process. Step 1, and this is actually a script that you're going to share with a client. Step 1, select a real estate agent. Good job. I think you chose wisely. Step 2, obtain financial pre-approval. That's what you're doing right now with mortgage lender of choice. Step 3, this is where we're at today. We're going to analyze your needs in a buyer's consultation. Then we're going to select properties to view. Then we're going to go out and view those properties. We're going to fall in love with one and say, we're going to write up an offer. We're going to say, let's pay X. The seller's going to counter and say, what about Y? And then we're all going to agree to the terms of Z. And I like to say, take this page home. I want you to put this on your refrigerator, Mr. Buyer. I'm going to put a big asterisk right here on the accept the contract phase. You see, we are not committed to the property whatsoever when we go mutual. We're not even committed to the property whatsoever when we submit an offer. In fact, based on the terms of the inspection contingency, we have 10 days to walk away for any reason. If all goes well, after the offer is accepted, 30 days later, you'll own the home. What questions do you have for me? So that's the script. You're actually going to practice it. But what I want you to hear is we just need to know one step more than our client does. You see, we're going to teach you how to slangify terms so that if they do ask you about appraisal or underwriting or what a clear title is, you know the answer. That's not where we're going to focus. We're going to focus so much on the mindset, the methodologies, and what helps make you a great agent so that when you get to that point, you do it the right way. So for now, all you need to know is how to get people to want to choose you to be the real estate agent, and the rest will take care of itself. All right, how to shadow. Shadow. So part of what we're going to do, part of what makes our organization so great is we want you to go out and shadow some of our other agents. We want you to shadow a buyer's consultation, shadow an open house, shadow a home inspection, you name it. We want you to be there and doing it. The problem is the first couple times I was having agents shadow me in my business, I would say, hey, prospective Mosaic Home team member, you're going to shadow me. I don't want you to say anything in the home. I'm going to work with the clients. In fact, I don't want you to interrupt the flow. Don't worry if there's an awkward silence. I want it to be there. I don't need your help. And they'd say, okay, yeah, I totally get it. Well, I can't tell you how many times this happened. We'd be in a house and there would be this awkward silence, which I intentionally put there so that I could help the client understand what I want. And some knucklehead brand new agent would just jump in with, well, do you like the drapes? We got back in the car and I said, dude, I just said don't talk. He said, well, I thought you needed my help to bail you out. I'm like, are you kidding me? Listen, if you've ever been to a park or you name it, there's like a sign that says, please don't turn turtles upside down and throw them in the water. You're like, wow, that's the most random sign ever. But the fact of the matter is, that park had a problem with people coming in, flipping over the turtles and throwing them in the water. So they actually had to write a sign out there. So we have a How to Shadow pledge. I'd like you to read its entirety, sign it. And this is the way that other members on our team will feel comfortable with you shadowing them, because they know it's your role to shut the heck up. You know what? If a client even asks you a question, I'd like you to go, I'm not allowed to talk. I'd rather you say, I'm not allowed to talk, for you to say something like, yeah, it does smell horrible in here, doesn't it? And so we want you to shadow. We want you to shadow a lot. Your role is to be seen, not heard. Actually, yeah, don't be seen, don't be heard. Either one. All right, fair? Okay, one script that we are going to learn today, and I've saved it for the last, is the sphere script. So the sphere script, what exactly is the sphere script and why do we have a script for the sphere? Remember, we learned the bio script. That was a separate one. That's how, you can introduce yourself as knowledgeable and knowing about real estate when someone asks you, or if someone actually tells you they're going to use another real estate agent because you don't have enough experience. The sphere script is one that we are actually going to call and ask people in our sphere about. Now, my wife, when she got licensed in real estate, she sat through the crash course class. She says, why do you have them memorize the sphere script? And I'd say, well, so they know it, so they have it down pat. She's like, yeah, but it's a phone script. Why don't they just always have it in front of them? And I thought, wow, that's actually a great point. But the reality of why it's so important that you memorize the sphere script is because the sphere script is going to come into play anywhere and everywhere that you are, in town, around town. And so it's pretty much the most important one that you can memorize outside of the invite to buyer's consult script. So I'm going to role play with you the sphere script, and then I'm going to talk about it a little bit. This is going to be kind of helpful for me to unpack it a little bit. So you can open up your script packet and just kind of read along. So ring ring, and they're going to answer the phone. Hi, Johnny, this is Andy. As you may know, I recently transitioned careers to focus full-time on real estate. My team leader has asked that I make a list of 3 people, 5 people, 7 people, 25 people, you pick the number, that I knew would answer my call and ask for a big favor. Who do you know from work, church, or your sphere of friends is looking to buy real estate, sell real estate, or invest in real estate in the next 1 to 3 months? And they're going to respond, I don't know anybody. Great. Tell you what though, because we're good friends, think about it. Who do you know? I know you're in the AYSO soccer league. Who do you know from the Kiwanis Club? Who do you know from your car club? And if they still can't think of anyone, outstanding. Listen, I have to make this call every month. My team leaders ask that I call my trusted people once a month. Can I call you back this time next month and ask you the same question? And they're going to respond with the course. Or they're going to say, actually, I do know someone who's looking to buy, sell, or invest. Johnny's looking. Outstanding. What's the best contact info for Johnny? So they're going to say, I can't give that information out over the phone. Sure, tell you what, reach out to Johnny right now. Tell him that a wonderful real estate agent you know would love to interview for the position of helping him with their home buying needs. Then I'll call you back tonight at 8 and get that info from you. How's that sound? Great. Thanks so much. You're doing me a huge favor. So the sphere script. Oftentimes I'll talk with an agent, I'll say, well, are you working your sphere? Are you calling your sphere for business? And they say, yeah. And this is what they mean. They have once or twice called up someone from their sphere, and this is what they've said. Hey man, if you ever come across someone who's looking to buy or sell, would you let me know? And they respond, yeah, of course. You know, in the first class we talked about we want to be disruptors. We want to say things a little bit differently so they catch people's attention. We don't want to sound like the mundane, drab other salespeople. That's exactly a key and point. Hey, do you know anyone who's looking to buy a car? Do you know anyone who needs a babysitter? Do you know anyone who needs a frontal lobotomy because I can't think of scripts for my own self? This is what they're saying. Do you know anyone? It's not a real script. It's just like it's a catchism. It's just what you say. This is how we respond. Who do you know from work, from church, or from your sphere of friends that's looking to buy real estate, sell real estate, or invest in real estate? Think about it. Take some time. I know you don't actually go to church, but who do you know from the gym? You work as a car salesman, correct? Who do you know from the lot next to yours? You see, the brain likes specifics. This is one of the key scripts I actually got from, there's actually a lot of folks that use this one. Brian Buffini has a variation of this, and Diana Kokoska definitely has hers in Bold, which is a phenomenal class. But the brain likes specifics. Who do you know causes someone to say, nobody? Who do you know? Or when you say, do you know anyone looking to buy, sell? That just causes your brain to shut off. Who do you know from specific? Who do you know from the gym? Who do you know from the Home Builders America Club that you're part of? Who do you know? Who do you know? Who do you know? And then take the time to wait for their response. Again, we're so polite, and especially when we're uncomfortable, we feel a bit nervous. If I were to say to you, who do you know from work, church, or sphere of friends looking to buy, sell, or invest? And I wasn't to get a response back instantly, I'd say, okay, well, if you think of anyone. No, if there's a silence, if there's a awkward silence, it's because they're thinking about it. So let that go on as long as possible. Really, if you think about who you're calling your friends and your family. You're calling people who you hope are your raving fans. If someone were to call you up, now if someone were to call you every week and the only time they ever called you was asking for business, in fact, you probably have those people in your life. They're in part of some LuLaRoe or Lululemon or some other kind of pyramid scheme. If they're just calling you, asking for business every other week, pretty soon it gets tiring, it gets old. They're not people who you want to be in business with. We're not going to let you be that kind of person. We're not going to let you be someone who just takes. But if you are calling your sphere of influence, your people who are your road dogs, your people who would go to bat for you, the people who would, they're probably not going to help you move because I don't do that for anyone, and probably your friends don't either, but they're the ones who would definitely show up at your barbecue if you have free food. These are the people you're calling. And this is exactly what you're saying. Who do you know? Now, another way I like to tie this in here, and you can do this too, this especially depending on your demeanor and your affect. So the script starts off, my team leader has asked me to call 25 people who I knew would answer my call. Let's just say you don't know very many people, and for one thing, you're calling someone who's maybe not in your close circle of friends. This is how you say it. My team leader, who's kind of a horrible jerk of a boss, he's making me do this. He's insisting that I call 7 people who I knew would answer my call and ask for a favor. And because you're someone who I really trust, and I knew that you wouldn't mind, I called you. Can I ask the favor? And they're going to say, of course, yeah. You can kind of put your team leader, you can put Andy, you can put your team captain on the opposite end of this. They're making me do this, and I knew you were a safe person, so can I ask you for a favor? And if that person is genuine, well, first of all, if you have a genuine relationship with them, they're going to be thrilled. They're going to know they're doing you a huge favor, and they're going to definitely return in kind. I had an example. So there was a gal that used to work on our team. Her name was Katie Duth. Katie, if you're watching this video, miss ya. She said she didn't have anybody she could call. Her husband was a pastor at a church. And she said, oh, I don't want to call anyone from my church circle. I'm like, well, you still got to actually make these phone calls. And we got to practice them. It's like, well, who's someone that you feel like completely safe? Let's just practice the script. Let's just call someone so we can live practice. She said, okay, I'm going to call my husband because I just need to say the script and I don't want to muddle it up. I don't want to mess it up. So I'm just going to call him and to role play with him. I said, great. So we put him on speaker. She called, her husband answered, and she actually said, hi, honey, just so you know, I'm on speakerphone with Andy. He's making me do this. And her husband goes, uh-oh. As you may know, I recently transitioned careers to focus on real estate. My team leader has asked me to make a list of 10 people I knew to answer my call and ask a favor. And her husband said, okay, go ahead. Who do you know from work, church, or your sphere of friends looking to buy, sell, invest? And I kid you not, he said, oh my gosh, I can't believe I totally forgot. The Smiths need to sell. They asked me to have you reach out like 2 weeks ago and I totally forgot. She died of embarrassment right there sitting with me. Her own husband wasn't even thinking about real estate the way that she was. You see, and that's what happens. Your friends, your family, your colleagues, they don't think about real estate the way that you do. In fact, you're going to have someone come up and say, we just bought a house last week and you're in real estate, aren't you excited for us? And you're going to go, yeah, I am. I wish I would have asked you 2 months ago. And they just don't get the relationship, the agency relationship that you're 100% commission. That's why the sphere script is so important. By the way, I still every time I talk to Katie, remind her of that incident. Her own husband didn't give her a piece of business. So that's why the sphere script. We're gonna memorize it because you're gonna begin to use it in an open house, your door knocking. You're gonna see how the scripts interact and mingle. So I want you to stop right now and spend the next 15 minutes going over the sphere script and then practice it with your team captain. And so the last thing I want to do, guys, is just keep throwing more and more information at you. Right now, I expect that by the next class, you have the sphere script memorized, the bio script memorized, and you begin to use and implement tie downs. Listen, you could show up to class and you could try to fudge it and fake it. That's not going to do anyone any good. Time block the time. Memorize those 3, and then I'll see you tomorrow.